Hey guys, it's me again, Orc Slayer What Ifs. Where we last left off, let's see, checking. The FIs stopped a robbery and got in trouble for it. Omega was kind of upset at that. People saw at how strong Deku is right, as they believe him to be Deku, as Deku, or the body of Deku, is still under control of the FIs. Sorry. No one is aware of how or what has happened to Deku's mind, in the sense that it has broken up as it has. No one. Not the mother, only them. The eyes do have some information. Delta went through the information about Deku, learned a few things. He learned about Deku's obsession, well, yeah, I guess it's somewhat of an obsession with heroes. His way that he completely analyzes all of them. And Delta is just like that. Any hero he sees, he immediately tries to, figure out what their quirk is, how it works, best way to defeat them, best way they can use it, that sort of stuff. Which Omega uses it thinking that about the whole fighting thing. He thinks about when they have to fight, so he starts looking at the data and looks at the best way to incorporate it. So he starts to try and depict best way to defeat them. For every single one, he has asked Delta a number of times, well, how do we defeat this guy if he has this and this and this against us? He's like, Delta says best way is for Sigma to speed past and get in close. That while you and Sigma quickly switch, you will then punch him. Or, sorry if I said this, but Theta could, I'll say, instead of just putting a shield around Deku, he can actually put a force field around anything he wants. I changed my mind on that, so I'm sorry. Theta will be allowed to put a shield over anything he really wants. They can still break out if they have enough force, but small things like punching on the thing ain't gonna do much. The shield can take a maximum of from what Delta can guess is 20 All Might punches, which they've looked at the data, and All Might punches are things of their own. That being said, Delta then advises and has come up with their whole armor set. As they look at it, and it's perfect in their eyes, but the rest of them, Delta sort of looks around looking for hero things that would actually be willing to make this. And he looks at UA's stuff, and he sees that they would have everything, they pretty much use up their entire budget to make their suit of armor, you could say. But the AI still have one question. What do they do for a ranged weapon? Start coming up with ideas. They say that, what about a gun? It's we would have to become very skilled with it. Plus, they wouldn't allow us to have it. Oh, what about this? As all of them are posting questions, Theta comes out of the corner saying, why don't we just make it a grenade launcher? As they all look at Theta, he's like, what? They're so cool, and we could put the grenades could do something. They could release foam that encaptures people. As Omega says, what about lethal? Thea's like, well, we could do that too. They could be explosive. And Omega's like, I'm on board. I agree with this plan. Delta's like, we do not know anything about engineering or making weaponry of any sort. We would have to make it ourselves. As alright, fine, let's start on a design. As all of them rush over to some of a design thing that they've somewhat downloaded, as they're like, okay, so what we'd want is this. We want a grenade launcher that would be very easy to reload, as well as shoot. It would also probably be easy for us to handle, so we aren't like lugging it around. It's like, how about we have it where we just hold it from the side, and there's a thing on top where we just recoil it back like a shotgun? Is what Delta says, and it's like, sure, that seemed easy for us to use, alright? And as he comes up with the design, they say, well, what about close range? It's like, we have super strength, why would we need it? Well, it's just in case. And it'd be better to have a weapon for close range than just our fist, isn't it? Delta thinks of this, and that is logical. As in, he thinks, as they start coming up with ideas, well, what would we want? Just like a... It's like, we want a blade, is what Omega states. As Theta's like, but wouldn't that, like, be dangerous for some people? And for us? Like, the blade is, like, right there by our side. It's like, but we'd be holding it in a way that make it so. And then as he, like, shows an example of movement, as he shows how he would use it, it's like, wait. As Sigma says, what makes you think you're the one in control? It's like, I'm the best at fighting here by far. It's like, Delta says, calculating. Omega's aggressiveness when it comes aggressiveness in all mannerisms would make him the most eligible for it. Sigma's like, very well, I'll just do what I need to do. We are just here to become heroes, correct? Like, yes. We all are essential parts. Sigma, you have control over the speed, so you would help with when Deku need to get to a place fast. Gamma, as Gamma's like, what? It's like, you would be in charge of keeping Deku hidden if the situation ever arises. Theta would be in charge of shielding us from damage, and then Omega would be in charge of punching things, or hurting things. And I would be in charge of regeneration if it came down to it. It's like, that is true, I guess. They all come to the same conclusion. And one of you guys pointed out the time distortion that the meta had. How I'm having it is that the AI just think faster and thus can like, they can either go by our time or their time, which is slowed down dramatically. And with Sigma's speed up, he can just, like, seems like he just is moving much faster than they can react or see. Now, it isn't like time freezes. It just goes really, really slow. Is how I was thinking of having it. And that's why I didn't give him the time distortion device. As you see. So, as they come up with the weapon design, it's like, it's perfect. What should we call it? Well, as Theta's like, Theta, you came up with the idea. You decide. It's like, the brute shot. It's like, I like the idea. I agree. Brute shot. Classified object. Brute shot. Like, now, we have no idea how to make this. Like, where would we even find time? As it's like, wait, maybe we could make our own money. And, like, send it into UA and have it made. Like, it would be our budget and such. Like, that's what I think it is that UA pays for the stuff that they need. Or it's Izuku and his family. But I'll still say this is, like, at the maximum amount that UA has for him, is the suit. Sorry. So, as they immediately start looking for part-time jobs that they could use. It's like, as they go to the computer, and it's late at night, so Deku's body should be in bed resting, but the FI are sort of keeping him up, or it up, since it's more or less just a shell, or a meat puppet, you could say. As the AI are looking through jobs, Theta's like, why don't we go for one that way we can, like, work at a diner? It's like, diners, what would we do? Be a waitress or a waiter? Waiters make a lot less money than other jobs do. They mainly rely on tips, is what Delta says. It's like, alright, then what about... Oh, I know. This thing says... This one right here. It says, looking for a factory worker that is stronger than average. Would be dealing in moving carts. Well, it's like, no, that sounds like we would have to use our quirk, and that is something we cannot do. It's like, ugh. They're just looking around. What to do, what to do, what to do, what to do, what to do. Then it's like, moving. Working at a warehouse. As they look at it, it's like, see, look. We'd be in, it seems to have decent amount of pay since we wouldn't have to pay for anything. And look at this as he's pointing it out. See, here, here, and here. As he points it out. So, would that make sense? Would that be optimal? As Theta at this point was taking a backseat after having his whole idea at working as a waiter shot down. Delta started looking at jobs that would probably actually help them with being in shape as well. As they looked at the factory, need movers, sorters, and shredders, as they would call them. They work in the sense that they would break down items and such, like recycle things. He's pretty much working at a place that holds items, as well as he was also looking at recycling plants where they would, like, tear apart things and reuse them, like a car factory or something. As they look at it, they're like, which one do we want? The factory worker, or this warehouse? As they're looking at it, it's like, should we come back to this tomorrow? As it's like, I agree as well. With all of them deciding, alright, there we go. They all deciding to just take a break from this and come back to it later, as they all close their eyes to rest. Sorry. As then it comes to the physical today, where they'll, like, see how strong they are, and their quirk thing. That's what I think they have that, actually. Like, where Mirio would test out his quirk. I forget what they called it, but I think they would just have it at school. Not like a physical test, but like to help with your quirks and such. Deku doesn't really need it, but he was recommended for being put down for it. So that way as he said that he sort of just acted in the moment, they said that he would have to do it as somewhat of a punishment. The school made him do it. The police wouldn't do anything to him, but the school could. So as Deku was being put through this with him and some other students, as several of them were like, Deku's quirk is really weak, so why did he send that guy flying? It's like, I don't know, but I know this. Don't mess with him. After losing Ellison, he's almost become unhinged. So, say the wrong thing around him, he may decide to throw you out the window. As they agreed to, as they says, Deku, you will use your ability now. As they click a timer, Deku does the running thing, as it's like, stop, and go faster, as Sigma's putting a lot of his, like, effort into it, like, increasing the amount of speed. As people are seeing him, Deku's almost to a point of being a blur. No, well, he's just, like, rushing past them very quickly. I'll say, yeah, he is a blur. So he completes it quickly, as then it's like, alright, do the jump, as Omega puts strength in his legs as he leaps over the entire thing. Yeah, pretty much leaps over the entire thing, or close to it. Then with, alright, class, gather rocks, as it's like, Deku's, as it's like, throwing up his shield, as the rocks pretty much bounce off and actually hit a few of the kids back, who like threw with a lot of force. And then it's like, finally the camouflage, as when Deku did before, he wouldn't camouflage, you just become somewhat see-through. Not to the point like, oh, I can't see you anymore. It's to the point of like, oh yeah, he just looks like a ghost. Weird. So, yeah. That being said, Deku's like, is this all? Sorry. Not Deku, but, the Delta saying, is this all? As it's like, yeah, as then Deku immediately quickly rushes back inside, then rushes home. As he goes back and look, as Inko was kind of worried about Deku since he's been quiet, so she did something, she went through his stuff and actually found a job, two things of job applications. Deku returned to the house very quietly and opened his door. His mother was sitting at his computer with the whole thing on, as it's like, oh, Izuku Sweet. It's just that, as he's like, yes, I've been thinking of applying for a job. As he says, it may help keep my head clear, as he says it. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, she says, I looked at it, and it'd probably be best for you to work at the car factory, or whatever type of factory you prefer. Something that deals with heavy objects. She says it offers better hours and better pay, and it has a few more benefits than the other place. As is like, thank you. As then, the next day, Deku heads out to go there. Bakugo has tried to talk with Deku several times. To like, Bakugo was never one to, as you would say, show weakness, but in this case he'd be willing to. But every time he tries to talk to Deku, Delta pretty much forces the body to leave because he can feel Omega's rage when he's even in a proximity of Bakugo. But when Bakugo's coming at, like, looks like he's coming over to talk to Deku, Omega just starts sort of going like growling to, like, almost growling. So Delta pretty much picks the body up and makes him walk or somewhat run away elsewhere. As even sometimes when he couldn't run away, he just had Gamma turn them invisible. To the point, yeah, that's like how serious he is about staying away from Bakugo. As when they turned a corner, Deku pretty much just had them go invisible, and then he pretty much climbed on top of some of the lockers. As it's like, damn it, Deku, where are you? Want to say I'm sorry to hear what happened to Allison. She was a good person, I guess. Especially for always defending such a weak little nerd like you. Omega's like, as he says something, so how did it happen? She have to jump in and save you again? Bakugo kinda liked Allison, not gonna lie. As when Omega heard that, he forced Gamma out, jumped down, and swung at Bakugo. As he swung his arm, he slammed it right into a locker as it penetrated, and as a good portion of the arm went by, it's like, Deku, there you are, finally, I need to talk with you. Omega doesn't say a thing. He literally rips his arm out, as then the entire locker comes off. So as his hand is stuck inside the locker, and maybe hasn't even gone through the other side of it, he looks at his arm and just rushes Bakugo, punching and kicking. Bakugo's like, calm down, you damn nerd, or you damn weakling. I'm trying to speak to you in a civilized manner. All Omega says, fuck off, is what Omega says, just like straight up, fuck off. If I wanted to talk to you,
I would have done it! But I don't! Continue to bug me, and I'll make sure it's the last thing you do!
Man, that dries out your throat. As then Bakugo somewhat trips, as then Omega comes rushing forward and swings his fist down, knocking out Bakugo. He's like, oh. Omega's about to do more to Bakugo, but Delta rushes over. Omega, control yourself. If we get in trouble with Bakugo here, we may get rejected from UA for beating a student to death. The first time was our first transaction after a traumatizing event. We may not have that same luxury with this if we beat him to a pulp. As is like, come on, Omega. I know you get very angry, but if we keep this up, we may get expelled or even worse. As Omega has his fist raised up in the air, ready to come down on Bakugo again and again and again, but he just, as he rushes to the back of Deku's mind, or back to the corner of it, saying, "Do what you want. I'm done." As Omega immediately takes control and gets a sort of locker off their arm, he's like, as Bakugo's just laying there with a bloodied nose, a bloodied lip, and a black eye. An hour later, a teacher comes across Bakugo, film right there, laying. He's like, oh, as it's like, did this, Izuku Midoriya. As they try to call up Inko, as he tries to call up Inko. And this was after school, because Bakugo thought he could catch Deku then, having told his lackeys to buzz off. As they call Inko, your son, Izuku, we found Bakugo Katsuki knocked out in a dead-end hallway. We want to know, where is Izuku Midoriya? It's like, oh, he went to apply for a job. Yeah, he said he wanted to keep his head clear. So I agreed to it. As it's like, well, thank you for your time. She's like, wait, is Bakugo okay? Yeah, it seems like he just received a few bruises, and he broke his nose, it looks like. We aren't sure if it's Deku yet, though, so don't worry. It's like, well, thank you for telling me. It's like, it is no problem, ma'am. And tell us if Deku when Deku returns, we would like to speak with him. It's like, alright. As then, they go off. Sorry. They go off and get the interview. As it's like, do you know anything about machinery? As they say, we know a little bit about some machinery and about hydraulics and such. Delta looked a little bit of this up, and he was deciding on, should they get a mechanized suit or just a normal suit with armor? After looking up how difficult it is and how much it costs to produce a mechanized suit like theirs, or a mechanized suit that he would want with all the benefits and advantages, he realized that would cost way too much for UA to approve of it. So, then that's when he stopped looking into it, as it held no logical need. As it's like, alright, and do you have your mother's consent? It's like, as he says yes. Can we have proof? As he calls her up and hands the phone, it's like, hello, Mrs. Midoriya. We're here with your son, Izuku Midoriya. We just need your consent to allow him to work here, since the environment can be dangerous at times. She's like, yes. It's like, alright. Thank you. Deku's like, alright, we'll see you back here on Saturday. Is that okay with you? It's like, yes. Thank you for the opportunity. It's like, it's no problem. We actually needed a few more hands. So if you know anyone else who would be willing to start a job here, let us know. It's like, thank you. As Deku gives a bow of his head. It's like, remember, see you here on Monday. And we'll have a uniform for you when you get back here. It's like, thank you. Again, kid, no problem. As then Deku walks away, and they start working. A few months pass. Deku was questioned about the whole finding Bakugo unconscious part in the hallway, but he denied it, saying that Bakugo doesn't have any memory on what happened. As when Deku was in this close proximity of him, Bakugo wanted to say something, but Izuku left as soon as everything was said and done. And he told Bakugo, don't talk to me, in a very low tone, like almost to a point of a growl. Bakugo acknowledges this and stays down. Oh, damn it. That being said, Bakugo returns to his everyday life, training himself, because whoever attacked him wouldn't have gotten away unscathed. They would have at least been bleeding, since Bakugo does not hesitate using his quirk against people, from what I know. So, with Bakugo and Deku in this, Bakugo will be training himself, saying, if some guy could get a jump on me and still win, that ain't enough. As even if he had a surprise attack on me, a true hero will always win, even if the villain plays underhanded. As Deku starts at his job, well, what we're gonna be having you do, as it's like, see this assembly line? We're gonna be having you making these parts of the car, saying that, and they have a few extra shifts that they need some people to take over. So if he wants to still work then to earn the maximum amount, he could do it then as well. As Deku gives a bow of his head and then goes on to work on the assembly line, you could say. It's like, oh look, it's a new kid. Like, yeah, isn't he like from that high school over yonder? It's like, yeah. Anyways, give him a proper welcome. Hey, new kid. As Deku just keeps his head down, it's like, hey, new kid, you deaf? As Deku turns his head towards him, still like working on the thing, like completely and getting it right on whatever he's working on. Sorry. Completely being actually almost to a point of perfection with every one that gets done by him. Like, well, looks like you don't need any pointers. Anyways, I'm Chaka. This is Miwa. I'm just coming up with random sounding names. So Chaka and Miwa. And this right here is well, he has a American name, Dennis. It's like, oh, yo. As in they're just working, it's like, so, why do you want to work? He's like, I want to keep my head clear. It's like, oh, something happened? As Deku says, or, yeah, Deku, I guess in this case. Not Deku, but Delta or whoever says, it's a family matter. It's like, we see. We won't bother about you again. So, you're gonna shine up for those extra shifts? It's like, yes. Like, oh, you got a lot of time on your hands, don't you? Mm-hmm. Like, well, we'll see you later tonight then. It's like, Deku's like, like giving a nod, or Delta is. It's like, These three seem to have been here for a while. Or they are recent hires, just like us. This is a new factory, after all. With that being said, they continue to work throughout the entire time until their shift ends. It's like, hey kid, we're gonna go grab something to eat, wanna join? Deku's like, no, I have dinner at home. It's like, well, have a nice night, kid. It's like, as he gives a little, walking home. And it's late at night. As then Delta's like, a few people are starting to follow us. As Deku turns a corner, well, the body, as Delta and them turn a corner, and then he's like, camouflage. As he immediately camouflages. As in the three punks are looking around, it's like, what happened to that guy just a second now? He's like, man, seriously, come on. We're gonna... Man, we gotta find another guy to go rob, I guess. It's like, or go have a fight with. It's like, yeah, seriously. So many people don't travel at night anymore. Used to be that they would travel everywhere at night. But since we're in this sector of the city, quite a few things have happened, so... Especially with that shooting that happened a while ago. It's like, yeah. Did you guys hear what happened to those, like Ricky and his crew? It's like, yeah, they got obliterated and they went sky high. It's like, yeah, can you believe that? The bastards ruined everything for us small-timers, huh? People were happy, unsuspecting, but now everyone's afraid that another thing like that's gonna happen just at the drop of a hat. Man. I wish those guys actually would have just gotten killed instead of actually doing damage. It's like, yeah, did you hear about some of those people who died? It's like, oh yeah, they had an entire thing for them. Yeah, it's a damn shame, especially some of them were actually even good looking. It's like, yeah, especially like that one that was brown haired. As Deku hears brown hair, as they describe as one of the few imprints of Allison that comes to memory for any of them. Well, Theta, Sigma, and Omega remember Allison. Well, so does Gamma. And Delta knows her because he's looked through Deku's stuff and knows who or what they were together. After hearing this, Theta's like, can't really talk about her like that. Gamma's like, Sigma's along the lines of being somewhat upset about this. Omega's like, they keep talking about her like that, I'm gonna break their knees. It's like, Delta, we cannot do that. It would be us attacking people who have done no wrong. It's like, you just heard them that they were gonna mug us. It's like, but we cannot prove that. It's like, yes, it is annoying. I agree. But unfortunately, we'll have to play by the rules for now. It's like, fine. As they return home, eating a cold dinner since they were gone for a while. Like, for a long while. And I'll skip to a year or so in the future. They will be 17 by now. Almost going on maybe 17, yeah. And Delta and them have learned quite a bit about Deku and have memorized a lot of the stuff about him. He remembers the childhood and such, what they went through and such, a bit of it. Not everything, but most of it, like the important parts, you could say. How they met Allison, how he asked her out, and everything. Reliving those every single night they fall asleep, they relive the same memories, since they themselves cannot actually have dreams, since they are not one entire body, or one entire mind, so... Delta and them have earned enough, you could say, to somewhat have in case they have to pay for the object to be made, the brute shot. And he has even analyzed components that they would need to make non-lethal rounds as well as lethal rounds. And the blade and such would be made out of a very sturdy and very metal that would slices very well. They've done a lot and everything. So, before any of you ask, no, there is no ship really, that I have in mind. And I think that is a nice place where to end it off. They've made the money and such and are ready. And now I'll say there's about 9 months for the whole, well, more than 9 months. I'll stop here for now and get on to some good parts later. Anyways, I hope y'all have enjoyed this. Hope y'all continue to enjoy this. I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.